Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM22 Journeyman, episode 31. And boy, oh boy, has it been a busy off season and another busy month from where we left off at the end of the last episode, which was all off season anyway. And we're still there. We're still not yet into the season. First off, let's get into our new youth intake. 4 elite talents in this class, all with pretty high potential, and one of them looking like he could possibly be good enough to make an impact right now. Ursayad Suryanto, 15-year-old center back. Little off on the pace. He's not great there, but he's got the balance. He's got fantastic jumping reach. He is 6'5". He is a giant of Southeast Asia. He's brave with 19. He's determined, 17. Teamwork, work rate. This is a player who's going to do a lot of good things, but look at a few of the other keys, because there's a lot of good attributes there, but there's other attributes, right? A little slow. He's lacking in strength a little bit right now. Composure is obviously an issue, but not one that I'm as worried about for the position. Decisions at a 9 is acceptable. Off the ball doesn't matter as a defender. It's the positioning, and positioning at 9 is also acceptable. It's nice to have vision. Like, I'll use myself as an example, okay? I'm not the greatest player that's ever played the game. Obviously, I'm not a paid professional, okay? But I've played for a lot of years, and I'm a center back who has vision, which pays off extremely well because I play indoor. Because, at least these days, I play indoor. And with indoor, a center back is your deep lying playmaker if they have vision, which I do, and I have crossing and I have good passing. So I create a lot of offense. In fact, when I cheat up the field just a little bit to kind of get into that pivot spot, that defensive mid type role, I create a lot of our a lot of our shot creation kind of starts with a pass coming from me, or I run up the pitch and get involved. It's weird how a lot of our offense still comes through me, even though I'm in the back most of the time. But anyway, center back with vision, good. Not necessary. Certainly not in a 15-year-old. Tackling, fantastic at a 12. Marking at a 9 is certainly passable. 9 in passing. The technique needs some work at a 6. But the heading's already pretty decent. I mean, this is somebody who is going to... I think he could be in the senior squad. I think he could be in the senior squad right now. He's not a starter by any means, but I think this is somebody who can, let's say like Cristanto, somebody who's kind of really just off. You can see Cristanto is faster and his defending's a little bit higher, but look how much stronger Suryanto is mentally. +4, aerially, +5, and across the board in the attacking sense, the vision, the technical, the attacking ability, all much higher. That one worrying one is how much slower he is. But physically, where I mentioned he was a little weak, he's equal to Cristanto. Holy crap. I mean, this is exciting. And again, the 6'5". This is this is a 15-year-old who's 6.5 feet tall in Indonesia. What? Oh, I'm excited by this. This is absolutely the best intake player we have had thus far in this series. Really excited by this one. And he is going to get some chances this year. Oh, you better believe it. He's going straight into the senior squad. Not as a starter, but I will start getting him time off the bench as soon as I can. Now, on the national team front, I've spent the last month kind of day by day hammering out what kind of squad I can get out of this group. I'm pretty impressed with what we have and what we're going to be capable of putting on the field. I think we're going to have a pretty good group because from what I had seen, Zulfiandi looked like he was going to be one of the better players. And he's not. He's very much a fringe player, and that's one of my better players. I thought that Abdulestaluhu was like the top left back in the national pool. Oh, he was getting plenty of starts. But in reality, he really wasn't. He was kind of there on reputation. He's still in the squad, but basically he's a backup too. Well, Ursan, because I'm doing the whole wingback thing. Left back, yeah. I mean, the wingback situation is going to be similar to what I have with my squad. No surprise on that one, as well. Okay, Indonesia, right? As we already noted, they don't play with wingbacks, and so there's very, very few wingbacks in the pool. But for me, the playstyle tactically works ridiculously well, at least against the other Indonesian squads. So, I mean, we'll see how it is when we come up against some other teams. We don't quite know how they all play. It would be nice to kind of get that idea, get that sense to see if this is going to pay off for us. 'Cause really, there's only 3 teams we have to worry about, 3 national teams that we're going to have to face up with. Well, anyway, the quality here is pretty dang good. And then there's one big thing that I'm looking at, and we'll get to, that could impact things quite a bit. But Elgin Baggett is the top player in all of Indonesia. And no surprise by this one, he's not in Indonesia. Elgin Baggett is he plays for Ipswich Town. So he's grown up in the UK and happens to have an Indonesian family and has been willing, and that's the great part, has been willing to play for his home nation. You could see he's an incomplete player. Heading, marking, tackling is his strong suit. Technically, he has no other strong suit. But he plays his role. He's only kind of brave. His positioning, though, is good. But you can see mentally, he's okay. He's got good physicals, though. 12 and above in everything. Jumping reach is a 16. 6'4". Funny we mentioned that, as we've got somebody now coming into the system who is quite the prospect. But this is the best player we've got. He played for Kings Lynn 7 matches as a youth player. No, that would be on loan. He has been with Ipswich his entirety, because we're looking at 2019. And then Kings Lynn, and now he's been back with Ipswich since, not on loan with anybody else. But he's got a growing reputation, and he's now an important player for Ipswich Town. 107 appearances, even though he's still just 22 years of age. But you can see for the national team, 29 caps, 5 goals. So this is one of your targets on set pieces, which makes sense at 6'4", and the excellent heading and 16 jumping reach that he has. He's going to be a beast on clearing things out, and we're going to put him right in the middle of our defensive trio. He's not much of a passer on the ball, so we'll keep him right in the middle and help anchor those around him. But you can see we have a couple mids. All 3 center backs are quality, and a couple strikers that stand out. When you drop off from there, we're looking at Zulfiandi at our wingbacks. And the goalkeeper, who's never had a cap, but when compared to all the other goalkeepers, turns out he's the better one, and he should have been getting the caps all along. Our goalkeeper, Setho, is the best option at goalkeeper. And then that's kind of the trend that I've noticed in a few cases. There's a number of players. My team is very much underrated. Very much. Zulfiandi made an impression, and he got himself into the mix. And he deserves to hang on to his starter's role. Now, there's only one other target that kind of compares, and that's Evan Dimas. And he is available on a free. And I've tried to sign him once, but his demands are pretty excessive. We might try to sign him again. Solid player, but incomplete player. And he's still just a notch below Zulfiandi in reality. So he wouldn't be important. And that was actually where we had the hang up, was he saw himself coming in as a key player. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're not. You're not. You'd be helpful to us. I would definitely play you, but you're not the key man. He wants to be the key man, and that's kind of the hang up on the contract. But he is the only top national team player who is available on a free right now. So he's that guy that if we're going to add somebody else, he's that guy. For me, though, like I said, things have been crazy. Season's a month away. Our first national team games are a few weeks away. But I'm still, I've got my hands full because I made a huge decision. Last time I was talking about how Londono is somebody I desperately wanted to sign, but we just didn't have any room for him. Well, if he would have failed in his trial and then gone back home, doesn't impact the league. But then all of a sudden, everybody, all the good teams in the league, suddenly wanted him and started offering him contracts. And that made me think for a second. Do I want him on my team? Do I want to have this wonderful problem of having too many foreign players and figure that out? Or do I want to take this 20-year-old with high potential who's going to be better than most of the other players in the league, and it turns out he wanted a multi-year contract, like a 3-year deal, I think it was? Yeah, 27. Do I want to sign this guy to 3 years, or do I want somebody else in the league to sign him for 3 years and have to go against him and see him make them better? Oh, that was a scary prospect. Excellent first touch, good finishing. The technique is fantastic. The passing, the tackling. So he's going to recover the ball and create offense. Now, he doesn't have a lot of pace, but at 20, those physicals still develop. He's got good balance. He's got good natural fitness, or at least good enough. And he's got stamina, meaning he can play. And while his mentals are a mixed bag, this is a guy who's going to impact her squad. And it turns out that compared to what everybody else was going to pay him, we got him for $37,000. We got him cheap. But it just gave me a new problem. It gave me a really big new problem. A, too many midfielders. B, too many foreign players. So what we've done is Okono. Okono is the sacrificial lamb. Londono, one foreign player. Cudonez, one foreign player. It's our top two guys. And defense is a big need for us. Midfield we have well in check. There's our next 4 best players. 5 of our 6 best players are all midfielders. That's 3 positions to sort out. Okono was our top striker, but when you really break him down, he's not actually very good. He's just done well. So there's a difference between being good and fitting a system well. Compared to our new man, Wally-Ain, stronger mentals, better physicals, and then similar everywhere else, other than not quite as good aerially. But aerially, Okono, that hasn't been his strong suit. We play the ball to his feet anyway, the position, the role he plays. So headers have not been his thing anyway. But Okono really isn't that talented. Also 29, already at his potential, not developing. The other one is Kabula, 24, that center back that we desperately need and haven't really been able to find. And oh, right, by the way, let's go for comparison. The national team. Yes, we have a couple really strong center backs. We have a third one that's fairly decent, but then it really starts to drop off in center back. there are not many good center backs at the national team level. There aren't options. Now, Baggett is somebody that I would absolutely love to bring home to Indonesia. There's no paying for this guy. He's making $170K a year. It would cost us $500,000 or $250,000, whatever the case may be, way more than what we can afford. He's not coming home. Looking at the other options, we're not bringing any of these guys in right now. There was a 20-year-old with some decent potential that I wanted to maybe bring on. Not happening. So center back's a tricky position to fill. Striker, well, okay, it's a tricky position to fill as well. Actually, this is a potential target ticket after. Just 3 caps, so he hasn't made his mark yet. But he's got a ton of potential and is already good enough to be the guy at the national team level, has the physicals, has the first touch. This could be the other target. This could be. So maybe we'll look into that. In the meantime, I found a 29-year-old free agent who's barely worse than Akono and signing for a very affordable rate. And Akono is now unregistered, and we're going to try to sell him. And if we could cash in on Akono and replace him with somebody like this, that's good for the future of the club, hell yeah. All right, well, you know what? Let's move forward. Let's see. I'll give you a few minutes of our youth intake game, and I want to keep an eye on that nice young center back. What was it? Sinatro? Something like that. And we pick up here with the youth intake game. About a half an hour left to play in this one. The intake players are in yellow while the traditional U18s are in red. For the most part, the youth intake players have totally dominated this match, but there's 2 differences in the squad. First, the youth intake players lack quality finishing. So even though they've been, as they get one there to equal the score, that was a brilliant play. I'm glad we had that one live. But until this point, they've lacked much quality in finishing. They've had a much more creative group. They've possessed the ball well. Their XG is significantly higher, but they tend to have the majority of their shots off target even when they're not under pressure. Meanwhile, the U18s haven't been creative, haven't been effective. The good players have moved up. The weaker players are kind of what's left there. And there's a second one from the intake squad, and they are looking really good at the moment and suddenly found their finishing. That's what they've been lacking. But anyway, a single moment of brilliance is really all the 18s had, which was enough to give them that 1-0 lead. But now, trailing 2-1, just a couple minutes later, it looks like the intake squad is going to take the win here today. You can see the real difference, and now with 2 more shots on target, they've gone from just 4 out of 14 to 6 out of 16. Much better odds. That's offside, well offside. Banged it off the bar. In fact, all 3 of those last shots had all hit the bar, but this one comes out instead of going in. It was offside anyway. Ooh, great shot there. What a save from the keeper. But this intake squad looking pretty good. In how they're playing. Likewise, the one player that we're here for, Surianto, he's playing on the left side of the center back trio. And Surianto has looked really good in this match. All that ends up crossing the line. Wow. Ramadani with a great shot on that one. It's weird how we've had so many of those in this game, but that one trickles as it rolls across the line, and it had just enough spin on it to eventually cross over. But Surianto has looked good. He's been solid. Hasn't been affected too much. His passing has been there. He keeps finding the target and played well defensively. That's been the common thing. We've had a lot of those one-on-ones from the intake group, and they just haven't been able to finish when they've had those chances. But I'm encouraged. This The funny thing is Indonesia just has low quality players, period. But as far as your youth groups, we definitely have one of the better ones in the nation, and we keep getting our hands on pretty decent players. That was a good play from Sunatra to set that up. The other center back got on the end of that one, but missed it. Yeah, 8 on target out of 19. Not a terrible rate, actually, in the end. The 4 out of 14 was pretty bad, but 4 out of the last 5 on target really making a difference. Alfredo looked like he was offside, but no flag. And that's going to stand. Now they lead 3-2. Oh, yeah, that was on. That was just perfectly timed. Barely on. The chip just beats the keeper. Good patient move. That's your veteran move from the more experienced. 20-8 on the shots, but a good amount of those on target. XG very low for the under 18s, but their finishing has been the difference. It's going to give them the edge. Of course, this result doesn't matter at all. This is really just checking out the players, and I'm encouraged by what I've seen with the intake players. All right, well, final minutes, stoppage time, result doesn't matter, so let's just go ahead and move forward. As we're finally on the verge of games that count, we have our first game as manager of the national team. This one's a friendly, but a few days from now we play the one that counts, the first one that counts, and the toughest one of our group. Right now, teams only practice together a handful of days, so tactical familiarity fairly low. Overall, it's a group of professionals, and they're fairly good. The marking is competent. Everything else, positional duty is competent. Everything else is accomplished. I'll take that for a start. According to the assistant manager, they don't look at the players the same way I do. But this is the group. And this first 11 is a group that I want to start in a few days from now. So because they only have a few days to play, I might give them about a half, and then I'll really start rotating out. I might even rotate a couple before halftime, just to get through that squad depth a little bit, but mostly because I don't want to wear them out. I want them to gain some familiarity, but not play 90 minutes. Now, a lot of these players have been part of the national team setup already. It's not a total accident that they're being selected. Setho, my guy, the goalkeeper, that's the biggest change in the squad. And I went through that national pool. He was part of it. He was probably 4th selection, I would think, based on what the old management, what the reports would say. But when you really look at them head to head, he's better than all 3 of those guys that were above him. So you can see that 7 of these players did not start the previous time. So only 4 starters returned from the last match played. But in terms of those that are out, that's kind of the bigger key. And we're looking at 6. 6 of those 7 aren't even selected. They're not in my squad of 23. And that's the biggest change. And I think that's where the team was fairly strongly underperforming. Now, of those 6, one of them is absolutely good enough to be part of the squad. And that is Nugroho. Nugroho just doesn't fit the system. He's a left winger. And he's solid. And he is your first team guy if you want a left winger. But he doesn't play any other positions, doesn't fit the system otherwise, and we are literally leaving one player out by changing the entire system. I'm okay with one player not fitting the system. Of course, he's not going to be terribly okay with that, but that's fine. By the way, the last one on that list, Evan Dimas, is here, is on the bench, was the free agent that I mentioned a few minutes ago, and is no longer a free agent because I tried negotiations again and this time succeeded, and he is signed with my squad. So my midfield depth just gets better and better and better, and I have a selection nightmare when it comes to that because I have too many good players. I have 5 to 6 solid choices at center mid on my squad, which is a fantastic problem to have. We will dominate midfield this season. We're going to have the best midfield in the league by far. And my solution to signing another international player and having to release a Kono, at least, well, we're trying to sell a Kono, but nobody's bought him yet, but unregister him to make room. Jack Brown, one of my too many center mids, is training to be a forward. And for my first match, we are on the road at Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh is below us in the rankings, but not substantially below us. They are definitely below us, though. And you would just about make us favorites, but only slight. So let's see tactically if we can dominate this thing. But of course, this is a team that's lacking a little bit in that tactical familiarity. And it's going to take them a little bit. And that's the unfortunate thing about not being able to play a round or 2 rounds of friendlies before getting right into the competitive matches. Okay, Ardley has picked up a knock. We are not going to mess around with this thing. Let's get Ardley out of there. And we'll bring on Dimas, actually. There's Sofiandi. Sofiandi and Dimas will be playing side by side in our midfield, and that's going to be 2 of your key national team guys, and that's what I'm talking about with kind of we possess some quality there. But so far, the home team has played pretty well. Now, one way that I've been attempting to address my situation with Akono no longer being available to us, of course, we signed Walain, and Walain is better than Akono by a small margin. Very similar players. I've been trying to find another one because I'd very much like to have Eunice be the backup, not the starter. Akono is a good backup, but unavailable. Walain would be a good backup. There's definitely better options at striker as we go pretty dang close on that one, but that shot could have been better placed. Right here, half an hour in, we're starting to take control of this thing. There's 2 teammates. Have not played together other than a couple friendlies, but we've got 4 of our players on the pitch, and there is the opener, Sayafudin. I tried to sign him. I was able to get the team to agree to terms, and then he had insane terms. He basically wanted to be paid about a third of the entire budget for the squad as an 18-year-old who's far from fully developed. Good enough to be the national team striker, though. He's dang good, but we just cannot afford him. And we're coming up on halftime. It is 1-0. After that slower start, you can see we really did start to pick it up at about the half-hour mark until we got that goal, and then we kind of quickly fizzled out again, but nice little stretch there to pull ahead in our first appearance. Hopefully that has something to do with developing confidence, players getting used to each other, play style. It'd be nice if that's the case, if that happened on the fly in the middle of the game, as it would in real life if they continually try to work at it.